If you've ever felt used or tricked, it's time to upgrade your defense system. Here's how smart people never get manipulated. They set clear boundaries. They communicate limits early and stick to them. They ask questions. Instead of reacting, they investigate the motive behind words. They don't rush decisions. Manipulators push urgency. Smart people pause and evaluate. They watch for inconsistencies. Smart people notice when words don't match actions. They stay emotionally grounded. They don't let guilt, flattery, or fear override logic. They learn to say no. They don't explain too much, they just decline with confidence. They recognize gaslighting. If they start doubting reality often, they check the facts objectively. They trust patterns, not apologies. Sorry means little if the behavior repeats. They avoid oversharing. Manipulators use your info against you. Smart people reveal slowly. They use logic, not just emotion. They balance gut feelings with critical thinking. They identify guilt trips. They ask themselves, is this my responsibility, or am I being made to feel guilty? They know their values. This gives them a strong internal compass to resist being swayed. They observe before trusting. They give time to know someone's true nature before getting close. They stay educated on psychological tactics. They read, watch, and learn about common manipulation techniques. They walk away when needed. They don't argue endlessly. They exit toxic dynamics calmly. They don't just hear, they listen. They focus on what's not being said as much as what is. Manipulators often slip in subtle cues. Smart people catch them. They spot emotional blackmail. If someone uses fear, obligation, or guilt to control them, they recognize it and don't give in. They detect passive-aggressive behavior. Backhanded compliments and subtle digs don't go unnoticed. Smart people confront them directly or disengage. They avoid chronic victims. Some people use victimhood as a shield. Smart people support real pain but step away from emotional manipulation. They don't fall for love bombing. Over-the-top affection early on is a red flag, not romance. Smart people slow things down to see if it's genuine. They question strings attached to gifts. If generosity is used as a control tactic, smart people recognize its manipulation, disguised as kindness. They know silence can be a power move. They're comfortable with silence and don't feel pressured to fill it. Manipulators hate the discomfort. They recognize triangulation tactics. When someone brings a third party into a conflict to twist the narrative, smart people don't get pulled in. They don't chase closure from manipulators. Closure is often used as bait to reopen access. Smart people create closure within themselves. They say less during conflict. Manipulators feed off emotional reactions. Smart people stay calm and don't give them fuel. They see through fake apologies. An apology without changed behavior is manipulation. Smart people don't accept empty words. They avoid emotional dependency. Smart people maintain independence so they can't be controlled by the threat of withdrawal. They don't justify healthy boundaries. They don't over-explain or apologize for protecting their peace. Boundaries are non-negotiable. They don't let guilt control them. They evaluate whether guilt is justified or being used as a tool to manipulate their actions. They use "let me think about it" often. They never commit under pressure. Smart people pause to process instead of being pushed into quick decisions. They recognize when they're being diminished. If someone constantly downplays their successes, they see it for what it is, an ego tactic. They don't try to fix everyone. They know some people don't want help, they want control. So they stop trying to rescue manipulators. They don't rely on external validation. Manipulators control people by giving or withholding praise. Smart people validate themselves. They trust their gut feelings. When logic is clouded, they rely on intuition. If something feels off, they don't ignore it. They learn from repeated patterns. If the same red flag keeps showing up, they don't excuse it, they act on it. They stay calm during emotional games. Manipulators want reactions. Smart people remain composed and emotionally in control. They pay attention to how others are treated. They know that someone who's kind to them but cruel to others is still a danger. They notice when affection is conditional. If kindness disappears the moment they say no, smart people realize it was manipulation, not love. They never feel guilty for setting boundaries. They know that guilt is often a sign the boundary is working, especially if it upsets the manipulator. They don't entertain narcissistic egos. They refuse to feed egos in exchange for approval. Attention isn't currency. They recognize common gaslighting phrases. They don't ignore phrases like "you're crazy" or "that never happened." They investigate reality. They walk away from circular arguments. If the conversation goes nowhere, smart people exit instead of debating endlessly. They catch sudden shifts in behavior. If someone's mood or tone changes drastically to control them, they notice and respond accordingly. They avoid people who create division. They see when someone is trying to isolate them or turn others against each other and step away. They know letting go is strength. They're not afraid to lose people who rely on manipulation to stay close. They don't feel bad for outgrowing people. Personal growth can threaten manipulators. Smart people grow anyway. They journal and reflect on emotional patterns. They process their feelings privately and identify recurring manipulation themes. They respond to actions, not words. Manipulators say what you want to hear. Smart people look at what they do. They choose peace over drama. They remove themselves from situations that constantly breed chaos. They know their worth. They have a solid sense of self. You can't manipulate someone who knows what they deserve. You don't have to fight every battle. You just have to recognize the game and stop playing it. Manipulators thrive in the dark, but once you shine a light on their tactics, they lose their power. If this woke something up in you, hit subscribe, because mental strength isn't an option. Protection.